You've seen it, maybe more than once. Tucked into the crook of a branch, balanced on a fence post, wedged into the corner of a hanging basket you forgot to water. A few sticks, barely a handful, loosely arranged, almost carelessly, like something interrupted halfway through. You could see daylight between the twigs. You could see the eggs through the gaps. And your first thought was the same thought almost everyone has. That can't be right. It looked unfinished. It looked like a mistake, like a bird that didn't know what it was doing, or gave up too early, or simply didn't care. And if you watched long enough to see eggs sitting in that fragile-looking platform, exposed, barely cradled, you may have felt something close to worry, something close to grief in advance. How does anything survive in that? Here is what's worth knowing. It does, at rates that should not be possible given what the nest looks like from the outside. And the reason why changes everything you think you understand about what a nest is actually for. Let's start with what you were looking at. The mourning dove nest is, by every conventional measure, structurally minimal. 4 to 8 twigs on average, sometimes fewer. No mud lining, no moss, no woven grasses, no deep cup to cradle the eggs against rolling. The construction time is remarkably short. The female can complete a nest in a matter of hours. Ornithologists who study nest architecture consistently rate it among the flimsiest structures built by any bird in North America. One researcher described it plainly as a platform so thin that eggs are sometimes visible from below. Everything about it signals wrong. And yet the mourning dove is the most abundant wild bird in North America. Roughly 350 million individuals, breeding in every state in the continental United States. More successful by raw population numbers than almost anything else with wings on this continent. A bird that has been building the same flimsy-looking nest for millions of years and producing, generation after generation, enough young to fill every yard, every field, every roadside in the country. Something is working. The question is what? The first thing to understand is location. The mourning dove does not build carelessly. It chooses with extraordinary precision. Studies tracking dove nesting sites found a strong preference for horizontal branches with overhead cover, sites where the nest is shielded from above but open on multiple sides. That openness is not a flaw. It is a feature. A deep cup nest traps heat. In the wrong conditions, it can kill chicks faster than exposure would. The mourning dove's flat, open platform allows airflow. It regulates temperature in a way that a woven, enclosed nest cannot. What looks like insufficient protection is, in the right location, a form of thermal engineering. But the location choice goes deeper than that. Mourning doves show a documented preference for nesting within a specific height range. Low enough to access quickly, high enough to reduce ground predator risk. They favor sites near reliable food sources. They return to the same general areas across breeding seasons, accumulating what researchers call site fidelity, a preference built from success. The bird that looks like it threw a few sticks together without thinking has in fact made a series of precise assessments about exposure, temperature, access, and predator pressure before a single twig was placed. The nest looks like the result of no decision. It is the result of many. And then there is the behavior around the nest. Because the structure itself is only part of the system. Mourning doves are what scientists call continuous incubators. During the incubation period, roughly 2 weeks, the eggs are almost never left uncovered. The male takes the day shift, typically arriving in the morning and sitting until mid-afternoon. The female takes the night. The handoff happens in a narrow window, a brief overlap where both birds are briefly present before one departs. Researchers timing these transitions found them remarkably consistent. This is not a bird leaving fragile eggs to chance. This is a precisely coordinated two-body incubation system running nearly without interruption. The nest does not need to be a fortress because the birds are the fortress. What looks like structural weakness is compensated for entirely by behavioral intensity. The dove solved the problem not by building better walls, but by never leaving. That is a different kind of engineering, not architecture, presence. And this changes what you were seeing when you looked at that nest and felt worried. You were looking at the structure and reading it as insufficient. You were applying the logic of walls and cups and depth and coverage. The dove is not using that logic. The dove is using a different system entirely. One where the nest is a landing platform and the protection is the bird sitting on it, reading the yard, registering every shift in light and sound and movement, ready to flush an alarm and return the moment the threat passes. The nest does not need to hold everything. The bird is already holding everything. There is one more layer, the one that makes this specific to the mourning dove in a way that matters. This is a species built around obligate biparental care. Both parents must be present. The crop milk that feeds the chicks in their first critical days, a protein-rich secretion more nutritious than the milk of most mammals, requires both parents to produce it in sufficient quantity. Remove one, and the brood does not survive. The nest is minimal because the nest was never the point. The pair is the point. The system requires two. The structure requires almost nothing because what it requires cannot be built from sticks. Across cultures and centuries, people have placed the mourning dove on wedding invitations and paintings and ancient texts as a symbol of faithful partnership. Poets reached for it. Painters reached for it. And they were, as it turns out, reaching for something precise. The dove's bond is not a metaphor. It is a biological necessity expressed in the architecture of the most minimal nest on the continent. You cannot separate these birds. The nest itself makes that argument in wood and air and open sky. So the next time you find one, in the hanging basket, in the low fork of a shrub, in the corner of the porch you never use, don't reach for worry. Reach for attention. Look at where it is placed, not just what it is made of. Look at who is sitting on it. Look at how long they sit. Look at how quickly the other one arrives when the first one leaves. You are not looking at a mistake. You are looking at a system so refined by millions of years of pressure and selection that it shed everything unnecessary and kept only what works. The nest looks wrong because you were taught to look for the wrong things. What survives is not always what looks strongest from the outside. Sometimes what survives is what stays, what shows up, what refuses to leave even when everything around it suggests it should. The mourning dove has known that for longer than we have had words for knowing anything. Have you ever found a mourning dove nest and wondered how anything could survive in it? Leave it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want to understand another choice this bird makes that looks like a mistake and turns out to be something else entirely, the next video is already waiting for you.